All right, it is 6:01. I'll call to order the meeting of the Frontier Regional School District School Committee. As it has become custom, we'll start with a reading of the operational goals. The school committee's primary responsibility is to establish those purposes, programs, and procedures that will best produce the educational achievement needed by our students. The committee is charged with accomplishing this while also being responsible for wise management of resources available to the school district. The committee must fulfill these responsibilities by functioning primarily as a legislative body to formulate and adopt policy, by selecting an executive officer to implement policy, and by evaluating the results. It must carry out its functions openly while seeking the comments of the public, students, and staff in its decision-making processes. The first order of business is to review and approve the minutes of May 12th. Sorry,
So moved.
hang on. Sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay. You just didn't know. I saw.
So on 2, it says we're reviewing and approve minutes, and it says on a motion by Mr. Holla and seconded by Mr. Holla. I know it's great, but I'm not sure he did both of those things. So I just wanted to, if we need to judge that. Otherwise,
Good chance one of them was Mr. Smith.
yeah, that is good.
Yeah, him and I usually make a team, so it's probably me.
You do. It's weird to see you not together.
Thank you for actually making it.
Absolutely. But otherwise, I would second with that change.
That's okay. So let me just back up just a minute so that, Bob, you wanted to make the motion to review and approve the minutes,
So moved.
and
Olivia said second.
second,
Yeah.
just to get that all in order. And it sounds like we just need to make an adjustment to those. I'm gonna make a motion to adjust the minutes as Olivia noted to correctly identify. You can just say so moved and we can get a second.
Typo.
You want to second that, Bob?
What, the typo?
Yeah,
Second.
that's gonna get fixed.
Sure.
All right, so first, all in favor of making the, go ahead.
Sorry, well, it was a motion on what item?
So it says 2, review and approve minutes. Okay. And then it says on a motion by Mr. Holla and seconded. by
So,
Mr.
Collective memory, Bob made the motion and Bill seconded, sound right?
Yes,
Okay.
that sounds correct.
Yes, that's right.
We're voting on the amendment and.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to keep things in line. Our recent town meetings, it sounded like have all reminded us certain steps we need to follow. Because we have somebody remote, you tell me when you're ready and we can make a vote on, we'll do a roll call vote on the adjustment, the amendment to reflect that Bill seconded.
So I'm pretty sure my roll call list right here is incomplete because they've been carried over from last time in minutes, the template I was given, so we'll figure out who's missing.
Yep.
See,
Yes,
Olivia,
Yes.
Bill,
Yep.
Mary,
Yes.
Bob.
Yep.
Ally, Jessica, yes, Diane is not
Not here.
here. Celia,
Yes.
Damien is here.
I am here.
Gotta add you. All right, good. I love the first
Bill is not here.
Bill is not here.
And now just to have you go through it again, this would be to
Yeah.
vote.
All right, so approving the amended minutes, Missy,
Yes,
Olivia,
Yes.
Bill,
Yeah.
Eric, yes, Bob.
Yep.
Ally, yes, Jessica, yes, Celia. Yes. Daniel.
Yes.
thank you. Sorry, I know that's painful to go through that twice, but
We did.
it keeps things in order. Shelley, you've got the financial statement.
I do, yes, I have some information for you. So 30 warrants were reviewed and signed by Mr. Holla, totaling $2,279,180.96. That's since the last meeting. I did send you out the expense reports. There's no major significant like red flag items. If you look at the last page of that, you can see $182,000 remains in the budget for the year. It's a little bit of a false number right now because we're reviewing open purchase orders. We'll make changes, we'll close things, reduce items. There might be some additions here or there depending what's going on. But we'll work on those in the next couple of weeks and then start preparing for the audit in August. Before I keep going, I'm going to give you a treasurer update. Is there any questions about that? Okay. So whatever that balance is left in our budget, just as a reminder, rolls into excess and deficiency along with several other things. So I'll be doing some estimates and then review and scan them to make sure that we're not over our 5% now. And then I think Darius had notified you last time in the meeting, right? We didn't send an email about it. Either way, you know that Mike DeBarge is no longer here. He was our treasurer and assistant business manager. We have posted the position 3 different times in 3 different ways and have what we believe is going to be a positive outcome coming up. But originally the applicant pool for the assistant business manager / treasurer role were pretty much slim to none. I think we had 1 qualified candidate who then withdrew because she was actively in negotiations with another district. So I respect that. I appreciate her not wasting our time. We changed the position and pulled it back to what Mike was originally hired for, because if you were here in the committee at that time, we promoted him. He was hired as treasurer / accounting specialist. So we pulled back the administrative and leadership components, thinking maybe we'll get someone for that role. Literally 0 applicants in 10 days, right? After we did that. And we were posting MASC on the treasurer's association site, NASBO, which is my professional association. It goes on School Spring, Indeed. I mean, we went far and wide, all of the college job boards. So even as far as like Westfield State, no applicants. Pulled it back even further, separated out treasurer from accounting specialist, ended up getting a couple of applicants for the treasurer position. However, they were folks that are currently working for other small municipalities or small regional school districts from afar, remote, doing very limited responsibilities, meaning they were essentially like the check signer and doing transfers in the bank account. And our accounting is far more complicated than that. And it also felt sort of like a waste of our resources to pay someone just to be a stamp on paper. So we also have to have that position filled. Legally, we have to have a treasurer just like a municipality does. So we've come up with an internal plan, at least temporarily, to fill the need for this, so that we could update our checks, because Mike's name was pulled off the checks. He was pulled off the bank account. So our assistant treasurer, who really was just by name to have that second check signer, has agreed to step into the treasurer role, at least temporarily, until we continue to navigate. And then Brenda Antes, who was formerly the assistant treasurer, who's still here part-time, has agreed to wear that hat again. So she's the second signer on our checks. They're sort of tag teaming transfers primarily in the bank account, because I can't legally do that as your accountant. The state does not allow me to have access to those pieces. So it's sort of like a Band-Aid right now, and I think we want to see how it goes. We essentially have them doing the functions of what the outside person would have been doing, which is very minimal. Payroll person, Josh Whitcomb, who replaced Brenda, has a very big job. He's processing payroll for 5 districts for every employee, and he really can't take on all of the treasurer responsibilities. And Brenda's only supposed to be 10 hours a week. So, it's really not ideal, but given that we had to move quickly and make some decisions, primarily so we could pay vendors and our employees, we'll see how it goes. The accounting piece of it, I did interviews this week. Again, a really limited applicant pool, a couple of folks right out of college, which is great. Everybody needs experience and to start somewhere, and it really is broken down to an entry-level position right now. We did make an offer this week. They've not accepted yet. There's been some questions back and forth. So I'm hoping by Monday that we'll have that piece filled. And the idea behind that would be that they would pick up like the data entry and things that Mike was doing as the treasurer. Right now I'm currently doing his job it's outside of handling the finances of the money in the bank, and my job, which as you imagine is a pretty heavy load. And I think we're still going to suffer, on the face-to-face teacher side. I know George can attest to how much time Mike spent providing support to our staff in any kind of purchasing, especially with student activities. And it's something that was a huge part of his role as assistant business manager, to be able to make decisions with teachers. I only have so much capacity in my day, so that's why we promoted him originally. So we'll make do. Thankfully, we're going into summer, so there'll be a lull in some of those pieces, and hopefully by fall we'll be in a better position. The idea would be if we could hire a qualified candidate, get them on board, get them trained, and hopefully eventually promote them in the way that we did Mike before, so that we can get back to having the greater support. So, a lot of information. Happy to take questions. But it seems like it's coming together. I've had Darius has to deal with literal tears from me several times in the last 6 weeks, so it's been rough. Not his favorite thing to deal with.
He's got a couple women in that household that get a lot of tears probably.
They're the
No,
only
he
ones that
does a
cry.
great job.
I came in today to sign the warrants and I saw Brenda, I says, I'm supposed to be retired. She gave me that look.
Yeah, you know how it is, right? You get put back. So, I'm so grateful we still have her here with us, though, because that's her.
She had a smile on her face.
And then I have a couple of other things on the agenda.
But later on,
Yeah.
all right. I am told that there's no student council.
No student council here, and I did not submit a report. I just want to say that we had graduation last week and it went really well. It was a wonderful ceremony and we had a great time and the kids were awesome and everybody was great. So
Weather was nicer than last
ready
year.
for summer. It was memorable in a different kind of way. Very memorable for its own reasons. But this year was really, it was wonderful.
A collective congrats to all those graduates. The next item of business is public comment, and just for some new faces that are around, just public comment is a space for the public. We do this work in a public setting, so we have a space in every meeting and invite the public to come in and can offer comments on things that are on the agenda. It's not supposed to be an open-ended, we can talk about anything, but it's also not supposed to necessarily be a dialogue. It's to take in comments for items that we will later deliberate in public. So just to give you a little bit of context for that, this is your first time in some public comment. But we have, I think, 4 or 5 faces. It's a space for public comment. So if you have something that you wanted to share as a part of the public comment, this would be the time to share any.
I'm gonna be speaking at some point, but I don't know if we're at that point.
Yeah, this would be if you have something to share about any item on the agenda.
All right, and first off, the acoustics, I'm older than all of you, so I'm thinking my hearing's going. I'm Kathy Molitor. I've lived in Deerfield for now 40 years. I'm a transplant from Colorado / Amherst, Massachusetts. My son Gregory graduated from here, and my daughter Allison and my third child Jeffrey decided to do tech. I'm here tonight because I was informed that the scoreboard that I donated to many years ago, I can't even remember when, had broken. And I said, oh, well, let's get it fixed, because I knew Greg's name was there on it. And they said, oh, there's a new scoreboard. I said, oh, okay. And then I said, okay. And then I came over and I know where the old one is. And then I saw it's here. And then the new one is over here when you go over there, right? Yeah, it's over there. I've come tonight to ask that his name be taken down from the old scoreboard and put under the new scoreboard. I think it's very important for the young people in the future not to forget that freedom is not free, and that one of their fellow students paid the ultimate price. That's, you know, and I did go on your website. I know you've done some changing about you prefer to have books and keep things. I don't know. I kind of read into it like you didn't want to upset them. Well, it is upsetting, and children, adults have to remember that the ultimate sacrifice was made. For the last 22 years, it'll be 23 years since his death, I've contributed to 2 scholarships definitely every year. And when it was the 10th anniversary, I gave $500. And then I was giving more. And the last time I presented on awards night, I said, my ultimate goal someday is to be able to give each and every one of you a scholarship for the future. Education is not cheap. And unfortunately, in any situation, there's always somebody that is going to have negativity. And I got a letter from Marty Barrett, rest her soul, that somebody had complained, and the Gilmores were doing it. I was doing it. I can see his face. Oh my gosh, he was the teacher.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, long story short, I no longer handed out the scholarships, but I also would give them a little chat because I was an EMT, active EMT for 25 years in this town, and say, you know I got white hair, but I know what you all are going to be doing tonight. Let's be safe. You have your whole future ahead of you. So I'm here tonight to ask the school board to move Gregory's memorial sign from point A to point B. Very simple. That's why I'm here. Okay. Any questions? Any questions?
So we'll do the deliberation on that item as it comes up in the course of business, as we move through the agenda. I appreciate you
Okay.
sharing
So
those
do you
comments.
need
And
me to stay or?
you're welcome to stay as, to hear how the deliberation goes with the committee.
Or you could just let me know.
Either way.
Why don't you just let me know? I've worked all day. I haven't had dinner.
As long as you find a cool place to be.
Well, my air conditioning's not in yet. We'll be fine. I thank you for your time, and I hope you will all consider my request because it's important to me. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Anybody else here have something to share for,
So,
as long as we can all hear you.
So my name is Jody Greenberg. I am an educator at Frontier. I'm also a community member of Conway. And I'm here to speak tonight about the possible removal of endorsement for national travel. So I'm a foreign languages translator to Spanish and French. And I'm here to sort of convey both my understanding of both, concerns about litigation, financial responsibility, to acknowledge that and to understand that that is really, it's a lot, and I understand as well, that, that seems to be a trend. And, we live in a world where responsibilities of this issue be a little bit is to price to pay when it comes to enforce these things. But I'm also here to, I'm not here to plead. I think everybody in this room knows about the value of educational travel and the benefit that it brings to students. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'm just sort of here to emphasize what decision may mean and sort of plead to investigation if there's not sort of a third way? Is there some way that we can protect ourselves as the institution and yet be able to softly sort of endorse these experiences? Because if we no longer endorse them and we respond to individual educators, I feel strongly that that option is going to disappear. And so as a parent, as I graduated this year, as many of ours in this room graduated recently, right, or this year, or soon to graduate. You know, as both a parent and an educator, I feel like the experiences are wonderful, but what I would like to just sort of throw out there, that maybe not has been said before, is also that it is a huge opportunity for us as a school and as a community to offer these possibilities. It's not about what students experience, but it's also like what they bring back to our community as a school, how they can inform other students, how they inform for their education by like sharing things that they've experienced. Last week we brought our language department, we brought some teachers from the sort of facilitated a visit to Frontier, and these teachers were so profoundly thankful, international, teachers from 15 different countries, profoundly thankful and very interested in what we do. And what I would like you to consider is that it's not about us, but it's also about what to be bring to the world and what is the message. And we talked about at graduation with a very coherent, cohesive, impactful message is that we're a community. We're not just a community for ourselves. We're a community because we want the rest of the world to know that what we do matters, and who we are, and how we impact others. And so I also, I sort of have a position as exchange sort of coordinator for a program that the school committee thankfully has supported over the last years. And I've worked really hard trying to find schools that want to exchange with us. And I'm going to say over the last year, I've had 3 potential partners who have all said, no, thank you, we're not interested, we are not coming to teaching or country. They don't give precise explanations and we don't need to know. But without those opportunities, we can no longer be an ambassador for what we stand for. And so for me, again, understanding the litigation, understanding the financial consequences, understanding the responsibility, if you put that on individual educators, that is likely to go into away. It's a lot. We already do a lot. We do a lot of daily work. We do a lot in terms of making the connections, programming the events. Like we're not just tourists. We work 24/7. We think very deeply about the kinds of experiences and what we're bringing to people that are these. And so if this becomes just a responsibility that lies on our shoulders, you know, it's a lot to ask for individuals. And again, my key is to find out, to investigate, is there not a third way? Is there not a disclaimer? Is there not a way to make our responsibilities sort of limited? Can we not, I mean, there are tons of things. Every time you go to the doctor, you have to sign a disclaimer, you know, if you cut off my arm, you're not responsible, right? So, I mean, I'm saying that in jest, but like, can we not make a legal contract that says, you know, if you are academically not living up to our expectations, if you're engaged in risky behavior, there are certain things that are not under our control. The reinsurance policy has a disclaimer, you know, for whatever it is, God's, whatever, you know, an act of God. There are certain things that as a school we cannot be responsible for. But if we remove all of our responsibility and we're all enforcing these trips at all because we live in a world where, you know, there's responsibility and it's risky, but we're also taking away our identity of like what we believe in. We are a community and our opportunity to show the rest of the world that we are Western Mass. We are unique. We share, we learn, and you know, we believe in this project. So thank you.
Hi, I'd like to meet you guys. I can jump in. My name is Pamela Sharon. I'm also a world language teacher. I teach Spanish at the high school. And I think you said that really eloquently. I just wanted to kind of have a conversation tonight. I think that all of you probably use these trips. I've heard that from Darius and others because many of our own kids have been on these trips, that it's incredibly enriching. That it's a time when the kids come home and they're new people. They learn a lot of independence. They've taken some risks in a hopefully a positive way. They're positive risks to grow as people. So I've heard that again and again. And for the 15 teachers who came from various countries, from Asia to South America, parts of Russia, we had people from Cambodia, the Cameroonian Islands. Everyone walked through and they really loved our school. They loved the murals and the accepting messages that were sent. They really raved about that. They were like, "You are so lucky. You have so many resources. Wow, you do trips abroad." So many of them had questions about that. How does it work? Like, how is everyone involved? So those are some big questions. And so I'm talking about, you talk about kind of the global aspect. I kind of have some little detail, nitty gritty, the teachers or the people who go on these trips. And I'm sure you probably considered these, but you know, we're wondering about if in fact this school no longer enforces. Will teachers take sick days? Will they be personal days? How are those going to be handled? Do they have to take our own time? If it's like, say, 2 days before vacation, because it's typically what happens to make the trip work, we kind of go a little before or after vacation. What about students? Are these going to be excused absences, or do they no longer excuse? For a lot of those kids who are taking AP classes, taking various types of classes, what will this have? You know, how does that impact the students? I talked to Darius about this. The use of parents for an email, suddenly now I'm going to have an app, and that's fine, but that we no longer are affiliated with the school. That's something for us to consider. The use of the school facilities for meetings, for leaving, for arriving. How does that work? Do we just have to ask the school? Do we have permission to use the facilities? Things like that. Fundraising, use of school accounts, tips, the bus, the finances. So we already have some money kind of in the school committee. Had paid a trip to Peru in 2027, April vacation for. What did I say? Peru? That was 2020. Argentina. Thank you. And how will that be handled? Is there something that you know? Typically, these bigger organizations take all of the money. Our travel agency, which is right out of Cambridge in Boston. We said we'd collect the first initial deposit, and then we have other monies that will be sent directly to them. But we've been withholding their initial deposit to see what happens here. Does the money go back to the parents, and then we have to resend it? Like, how is that going to work? Is that something that could just be sent off to them? Is there some kind of waiver, disclaimer? Must all students now buy insurance? Is that something that the school mentioned, or is it something we have to take on ourselves? Will we have a little flexibility since our trips have already been approved, or is it like on your own? I mean, you know, these are concerns. Does the handling of student funds, if we become the private owner, the private traveler operators, does that violate the district's ethic policies if we're collecting monies, or is it? I don't know, will I use my Venmo? I mean, these are things I'm thinking, right? Liability waivers, I mean, that's, we're concerned. We're under most of us, whether it's weekly or weekly travels, whether it's Explore, those bigger companies. What will happen is they'll say, okay, it's no longer Frontier Regional, so it's Jody and it's Camelot, and we're under their umbrella insurance, which is fine. But will there be something in addition from the school, or we kind of, I don't know, I mean, kind of want to know, where does that leave us? what I'm asking for, if you do decide, and it has been the trend for schools to no longer reimburse these trips, is there some kind of blanket statement of transparency coming from the school board, coming from the superintendent or administrators? I already have two parents, two community members, some of whom are in the room who have kids going on this trip. Because I could send out something, you could send out a different message. Heather Lawton and Stacy, who are would like to go to Australia, would send out another message. And then Ms. Walters and I think it's Jenny Yell would send out yet another. Will there be some sort of unified message about this so that we don't create this chaotic, like, oh, now it's happening. Everyone drops it and no longer happens. We've invested already lots of hours in this. We collected monies from people. And today I had a girl come in and ask me some questions. I'm like, I haven't said much because we don't know. There's so many unknowns. So I feel like we kind of need your help. We're switching over. Am I missing anything? In terms of medical emergency plans, I mean, that's something we'll have to work through with the travel agency. Those are just some of our concerns. There any questions about those things? If there's question and answer, but I thought we could discuss this because I'm sure that when our colleagues came to speak about this last week or last month, I think we'll see how this benefits for the children and the community. We're meeting ambassadors when we go abroad and we come back. And as a former Peace Corps volunteer, I can say that having those connections of soft power matter more than you know. They matter much more than what you see in the news. When you have friends abroad in other countries and you have a connection that is so much more important than any piece of paper or in the news. Those connections are what matter. And that's what I heard again and again in those wonderful speeches from Darius and Anna, not Darius, he looks so much like you, but Rowan and Anna, our two student ambassadors, to talk about the community, the relationships, the connections. That is what it comes down to. The money, yes, these big corporations that have these trips and that they say, oh yeah, you're under umbrella. Like, what are we here for? Seriously. Because it's always about money. It's always about money and insurance. What about the kids? What about their futures? So, that's it.
We have a second reading on several policies, including the international trip policy that's separated out from this initial grouping. You want to go through and give them?
Well, we went through them last time. I did. Jessica asked some questions last time, but I answered them in the previous meeting. So unless she's all set there. We had some of them right before this meeting.
Yeah.
So unless there's any further questions, I think we did talk about them last time. So.
Did you have a question? Oh, no, sorry, I thought I saw it. No.
Are we gonna make a motion to accept all of them at once, or are we gonna do it?
You can do them as a package.
I'll make a motion to accept ECAB, KBG, JKAA, JLCD, JLCDC as read.
Second,
For the record, that was Bill. Any discussion
Just to
with
be
those?
clear, that was
Yep.
all of them except for the travel.
Travel and JJH, was that? Hold on,
JDH is international.
that, thank you.
Yep.
The letters all referenced. split up and just cast.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're on for a roll call.
All right, Missy,
Yes.
Olivia, Phil,
Yeah,
Mary,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes,
Ally, yes, Jessica, yes, Damien,
Sorry, was that me?
yes,
Oh, yes.
and Celia.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right. So, next is the international trips, which I suspect, we may have some discussion on. Do we want to,
So when we reviews, so, we did talk about it,
yeah,
we talked about it last time. I was asked to provide a policy language around what would limitations look like within a policy, and I shared that with you. That was also reviewed by Russ, the attorney. That basically limits, it does limit international travel and approval of it, but it does leave the door open for ones that do fall within significant educational benefits in looking at that. So I guess you have conversations about that, or we can go back to the original conversation of the concerns about liability the school takes on for international travel, or all travel, but it expands even further when you talk about select groups going and not just the liability of incidents happening, but within our policies allowing access for all to those, and what will happen where the school will be financially responsible if someone with a disability wants to go on a trip, or someone needs one of a chaperone on the trip. We haven't crossed that issue, but it's kind of it's coming. It's coming. Let's just put it that way. Where if there's going to be additional expenses to the trip, we could face legal action against us. For the school, have to cover that. Also, I kind of spelled out the concerns about the liability of international travel on behalf of the school. I can kind of go through, what Pamela had mentioned, a lot of different concerns. There is some wiggle room in there, but in the end, the school has to separate itself. It can't say we're not endorsing the trip and then do everything except say they're endorsing the trip. If you're acting as a conduit to like any other activity at the school, then you're going to be legally considered endorsing the trip. So things will have to be on every message that this is not a school-sponsored trip. You will not be able to use school accounts to communicate out. Students using their own email accounts probably could take things in. That'd probably be okay, but faculty could not be using school accounts because they'd be using school business. Teachers would have to take personal time unless it's negotiated otherwise, but then I doubt it would be negotiated in because they are doing an activity outside of the school that is also a financial incentive because they do travel on the trip at a reduced or free price. Students by handbook wouldn't be excused, but our handbook policy basically states they can appeal. We have students that travel all the time for different events, from let's say a 4-H show in Ohio, or special family wedding with India or something of that sort, where they go to the principal and they get waivers for those kind of things. So there is things within our own policy for students to get excused if they're already missing 10 days by April, which would be, hopefully that's not the case, but it could possibly happen. Use of facilities, again, it's just, you would have to have, I'm holding a meeting after school and get approval from administration, just to keep the fact that the two are separate and such. We don't charge for use of facilities if it's done for our own students. So for other outside groups, Cub Scouts wanted to be here, something like that, Girl Scouts or any of those kind of things, that's not, we don't normally do that. What happens with the trips in motion?
Sorry, I'm sorry. I feel like I missed an important piece of that. You were saying that you would have to charge?
No, we wouldn't.
You would not.
We don't charge for athletic facilities as long as the majority of the people involved are students.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does that mean, so that means like if they're moving to have a meeting in like their classroom or whatever, they can, or they would just need to let administration know because
Yeah,
it's.
they would just have to say, I'm having a meeting of an outside group, my meeting, because technically the trip is opened up to anybody. So, well, it's up to the parameters of running the trip. They could say residents of the 4 towns, or they could say, you know, whatever the case may be, but on a positive end, you'd be able to open it up to other schools and other people who are interested in it. You know, positive or negative of that. You can put your own parameters on, you know, who goes on the trip and age and that kind of stuff. What happens to field trip in motion, and would there be a unified passage? We certainly would do that. We would have to help with the transition of that. Again, with the trip, you know, currently the Peru trip, and is the trip approved?
No, it's Argentina.
Argentina's not there, so
Wait, I thought
We are the-
approved
it is approved.
is approved, so that one.
Australia is
And
not.
Australia.
I don't think we voted on.
I'm sorry, Argentina. I said Peru. I mean, you're mixed up, right? So yeah, we would clearly communicate what the separation is, and then also within that communicate what the plan is to for each of these things within the list. The other thing is they handle the funds. That again, the school wouldn't be touching any of the funds. So, however you collect, if you're collecting for Venmo or you're collecting through an account, would be however you would set that up, as any private entity would be running it. Insurance, that's the crux of the whole thing. You would be on your own, and basically within whatever the insurance the provider of the tours is doing, and whatever liability paperwork they provide for that. And then emergency medical planning, again, that's a double-edged sword in both ways, where if you're private run traveling, you can restrict what level of accommodations you can make based on your parameters of the trip, and versus what the school can do. But again, that would be the school, we separate, we couldn't share medical records. We couldn't, even if you knew someone had an ailment, you couldn't apply that knowledge without the consent. So, all right, so just kind of going through, there's a lot to tackle. There's a lot of moving parts, but I guess questions on, you know, I did have a conversation about, Stacy wrote me an email, Stacy Chapley, who's, you know, doing an EF tour. EF is a larger, I think, I alluded to a larger company, it's big business. They provide a hefty insurance and liability package. It's kind of a plug and play system. It doesn't give you the, you know, Pamela had talked to me about this in my office about, it doesn't give you the same access to the country as some other travel agencies, where you can get really be amongst the people rather than on a tour bus. But they have those protections. Because I said, so what about if the school signs off on that kind of liability? And he said, the school is going to always afford some liability because you have so many policies and practices that you are saying that you are held to, that as soon as anything that falls outside the liability of that company, if something was to go wrong, they instantly are going to find where the vulnerable spot is in that trip. So the vulnerable spot will be the school policies. You know, were people properly trained for this? Was the school personnel trained for this? Were they following the policy of the school international? You know, and so on and so forth. And so when you talk about, can we do, when Jody talked about, can you find something in the middle? We can explore that. I mean, I gotta go to the same legal counsel who just gave me the legal counsel. They, you know, lawyers don't like field trips at all. They don't even want to see kids in country out of the school. But we would have to work with the attorney to see what other possibilities there are. I'm not very hopeful that there's going to be a way to protect the school liability wise with the concerns that we talked about last time as well. So that's just my thought, but I don't know everything. And it is, I know someone said a trend, a lot of schools are moving away from it because it feels last 10 years more and more litigious, more and more about access, and taking legal action when there's not access, or blaming everybody else for mistakes or accidents.
I know you've talked to Russ about this policy and stuff, is there other schools, and then if we talked about this before, it's gone through my brain already, but what are other schools possibly doing, or have you talked to anybody else about this?
So schools are moving away from this. This is kind of, I guess I could say, the trend, but we're seeing that other schools are doing this. And when we have conversations when problems come up, you know, I think George gave an example.
My son goes to Longmeadow. They don't do it. He actually went to Italy. It was an organization that it was not a school sponsored trip, but the entire band and chorus went to Italy. It all happened outside of the school. They all went, and you know, everything was taken care of. So I mean, my son had a really positive experience. The teachers still went on the trip, but once again, it wasn't school sponsored. So I know that there are other school districts as well that are ways of doing.
So I talked to Mario Shea from the superintendent of Longmeadow, and he basically said they didn't change their policy; they just stopped approving. And so he has basically, I think, the basic standard MASC policy. Northampton has also stopped endorsing international trips. Many of their students have been coming on our trips. I know Kevin Murphy put a trip together with them, and we were the host school doing it. But again, it's that liability, and there is a lot about access and equity.
I hear a lot. I've heard that from other staff members too, that not everybody has equitable access to these trips, even though you make the argument that only one member of your family is going, so it's cheaper to send one person as opposed to 4 people. But I have had staff members talk to me also about the equity of the trips. Not everybody can afford them. And not all the trips do fundraising to help those students be able to afford them. So that's something else that people have mentioned. So.
You know, when we do like the Washington DC trip for 8th grade, every student goes no matter what their financial ability to pay is. You know, I think the minimum cost was the $50 you have to put in from a family to go. Even that can be waived if you know, there's an appeal to this principle. So they're just kind of saying where the magnitude of some of these other trips, we still have liability, but right now the country expands.
We're in the USA, we're talking seeing trip. It's international trips.
So, just a few things. So my daughter's a teacher in Barnstable County, on the Cape, and she said that we want to take a trip. So they have like a booster, a parent booster for like this language, and the parent booster, like we have, I think football has a booster club, right? So they can plan things and do things that we can't, you know, because there is pregnancy. So that's just one way, you know, to develop if we needed to do like kind of like a third thing. Not that we would develop with it, could be developed. But I also saw here that plans directly related to curriculum or school activities. So I know when we usually approve them, we just approve them because they're amazing opportunities. But would a trip to like Argentina, like would that be part of like a Spanish 4 curriculum? You know what I mean? Like I'm only asking because my kids went on the Latin trip with Miss Nelson, and that was, I mean, that was part of like the Latin class. Would that be a different sort of thing than just like we want to go to Peru, although there's all sorts of value in that, just going to go because being investors and being a partner bringing it all back. But is that something that would still be on a case by case basis approved of, or is that not going to happen? I mean, I know it doesn't happen because she's not here, but like.
So the attempt in that policy,
The words just kind of say that.
right, the attempt in that policy is to not shut the door on anything forever. The idea there was to allow judgment that if it meets all the criteria, you know, if you had I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, but something where the curriculum and the entire group is connected to the curriculum and can meet all the standards of it, all have access to go, then they could be able to bring that before the school committee for judgment of that, right? It gets a lot harder because the financial side and the difference between selective and everybody from a curriculum piece in the school.
Right.
But the idea was, and really, this evening, Diane, was one who kind of brought that up, and situated those together. So that was an attempt on that.
Yeah.
And what we, other schools have done and kind of put our own spin on it.
And then just one more thing. So I should know this is so I apologize for asking. But when I was a teacher, we couldn't take the few days before a vacation off. Like that was part of, like, you're not supposed to. That is still a policy for our teachers, or that would be something that they have to do because they're going, or not because they're volunteer, but they could just, can teachers take the days off before?
There's nothing contractually preventing
Right.
teachers.
Yeah.
I think there is, although I'm not sure if it applies to Frontier or just Union 38. One of the IA contracts, if not both,
Yeah,
says
it's
that
Union
they
State.
can't take the day before or after a holiday.
Yeah.
And receive pay for the holiday. That's where that.
Oh,
comes
okay,
in.
so they could just take it.
Yeah. But nothing in the teacher contract.
But they can with approval.
IAs.
IAs
yes.
can with approval. So,
We have that.
life circumstances where, for instance, wedding, that.
More just a comment than it is really a question. I wasn't here at last month's meeting, so I'm kind of playing catch up here in this whole conversation. I guess first and foremost, I do think that these trips are amazing. My daughter went through you guys, and it was an amazing trip. I don't want to see these trips go away, because I think they are a really good positive thing for all our kids. On the flip side, even stemming from my job, and it's, risk assessment, how much risk are you willing to take to make things safe? I fly airplanes, and that's what I do every day. The safest thing to do is not allow these trips, because if something were to happen and the school were to get sued, that would be a responsible thing that I could advocate for. I would be really, it'd be really difficult. So I do hope that, and if however the vote comes down, or voting tonight, I do hope that there is a path forward to make these trips still happen. Whether, and what you said, George, is that's a positive outlook. I hope things like that can happen. So I think, Pamela, you raised a lot of good questions as far as time off and how it would all work. But I do hope the trips can find a path forward without really taking the responsibility off of the school.
Okay, so full disclosure, my daughter Eliza is signed up to go to Argentina. We're really excited about it. It feels like a really human scaled trip. It feels comfortable that it's just Frontier. I hear that, it feels like a comfortable size, I don't in any way mean to disparage some of these larger companies that do trips like this, but we also went to an information session recently for one of these larger companies, and it felt really different. It's like corporate in a way that Frontier trip doesn't feel corporate, and which maybe is fine in the big picture, but just sort of the feel, I feel like it's important to just sort of name that there's a difference in going with a small group and going as part of a big group that's maybe joining an even bigger group of other schools, sort of sharing tour guides, and it's just different. I feel like, okay, that's one piece, just sort of the feel, and I don't know how we would keep that. If we are saying we won't do school approved trips, and I understand all of the sort of risk and liability and feel like that some of those are really valid and important pieces. And I think we lose something, we would definitely lose something valuable. Okay, and so then the other thing is like, I want to make an analogy. Oh, yeah.
clarity that we do have some teachers that use those larger groups already.
Yes,
So I just want to make sure everybody understands that it
Yes.
goes both ways.
yes. And, okay, so I feel like an analogy is the approach to nuts in schools. And I love that Frontier has found this way of threading the needle and saying, like, as there is, I'm an elementary school nurse. I'm aware of where allergens stand and where the rate of allergies stands. And I really appreciate that Frontier has not gone in the ban everything route, because I don't think it's possible. And, you know, the school where I work, we now serve sun butter as the alternative sandwich, and we now have a kid with an anaphylactic sunflower allergy. And so it's like, what are we gonna do? You know, like, are we gonna ban sun butter and then try to serve soy until somebody has a soy anaphylactic allergy, and then we somehow have all this list of sort of banned things? Or do we just sort of teach like responsibility and thoughtfulness about how we are in community and find this middle path that's like, hey, there are kids with allergies. You're bringing an allergen to school. Be mindful. Wash your hands. Don't sit at the, I don't know. There's just like there's a way to thread the needle on that I think Frontier has achieved in the nut world and in the food allergen world. And I just am wondering if there is a way to thread the needle on the sort of trip thing also. And not just cave to the most sort of panic, risk averse.
I was gonna,
You go first, go ahead.
so I was gonna ask, before we get too far from talking about these other schools that have done this, were you able to, I know we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting, and I think this both echoes in some of the things that have been said last meeting and this meeting, is that we all appreciate and value our kids being able, and the kids of the community being able to travel. The question isn't like, do we think that that's a good idea? It's, where do we tackle with this liability piece? So one of the things we talked about is, have you heard from those other schools if their opportunities for travel have decreased, taking it away from being endorsed by the school?
I don't think that. I think
You think they moved to boosters?
If they're gonna.
yeah, I mean, we have stories of those who've done boosters. The question is how many, I don't have
Is there a volume
they've been
change?
averaging 3 and now they're averaging 2 a year or 1 a year. I don't know that. I mean, your question is really before you say is you don't have to change anything. There's no law requiring you to make the change. It's about liability and risk, and you're in charge of that. It's your job. So is it a policy that looks at risks and so forth. And so, and it's my job to inform you that there is a risk here, and in conversations with your attorney that it is a real risk. And so, if we do stay with the current model, I think we're going to have to bring in some additional measures to administratively help us. For instance, we have problems with parents going on trips now that are invited to go on trips, and then the school is responsible for those parents and those parents' behavior towards students. We were going to have to look at cancellation insurance being required. There's going to be a series of steps that we're going to have to do because it's gotten more and more difficult administratively for us as well.
And I don't want to leave out healthcare as well. That's something that we basically can't control, because we could be liable for something that we can't control the healthcare. That's something, once again, that our health office has been very savage.
So I don't know what happens if a diabetic who does not have control, you know, because there are plenty of teenagers that control their diabetes well, but we have plenty of teenagers that don't, says they want to go on the international trip. So is the school going to pay for the nurse to go? It's a very real, remember we talk about, you know, other accessibility issues on that trip, but that is one of those real things that hasn't come forward, mainly because families have made decisions regarding that that's probably not appropriate, but some may say that that access should be allowed. And so does that cost get deferred to everybody else on that trip? Or does the school have to go to an account to pay for that opportunity for that student? It is not, again, it's a selected opportunity rather than a curricular opportunity. You know, for example, in the Washington DC trip, we send nurses on that trip because of that. So that's a very real thing that's going to come down. Or we say the trip can't go because somebody with a disability signed up. That's my fear as an administrator, right? And so,
since we are the ones that approve these trips, are we going to be liable? If something happens on this trip, a trip, are we going to get sued?
you would be the entity that is sued. So you personally are protected for your work on school committee as long as you're not, negligent in your decision making for, so your insurance covers that as long as you're not malice in your, I guess you have malice intent where you purposely, and it's proved that you purposely did it. But anybody suing is going to go up to the school. The school has the money, right? And then, our insurance.
We're the ones that approve it. You guys don't. We do, right?
Right, but when they sue me, they sue the school.
Okay.
Unless they can say I did something personally, then they're going to sue me personally on the side. But you have some level of protection unless you did something. You'd have to do something personally.
Other than approving it.
You would have to do something, upping and downing the policy is not going to put you personally liable if you're making decisions on behalf of the school.
I didn't know parents, like, that would be a concern of mine. Send it, if other kids' parents were on too.
Like, if other kids' parents.
Like, if all of the parents were just allowed to come on, have they been quarried? Have they, like, how do I know that my kids are safe with that? You know what I mean? Are they gonna be alone in a room? Like, that, I was completely unaware of, which kind of shocked me. And that was, because some people have, like, especially like the nurses who go are usually parents of the kids who are on the trips or, whatever.
We did for everybody on the most recent trip they were parents.
That's good, but like then, yeah.
So to clarify though, and Olivia, we were commenting on, and then there's the core checks. The Italy trip that just occurred, we had some parents that went as chaperones, but also some parents that just went on a vacation and followed along the route. And they weren't, they didn't have to follow the same rules as being a chaperone. They had their glasses of wine and they drank and ate and went out and enjoyed the trip on the benefit of the school because they were just going on their own accord, that gets pretty shady. And how do you stop it?
You have to comment or answer.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's up to, I want to make sure that the committee has a chance to weigh in on everything, and if there's something that.
I think that I would be curious to hear more about the liability of us as school committee members. Like, I understand what you're saying, but also as someone that's married to a lawyer and who does litigation, I would just want to be clear because we could potentially be named in something even if we are still protected, just as an entity. So that would be a question that I would.
You'd ask your husband tonight when you go.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you ask.
Also, I wish Diane was here to explain. Yeah, or someone.
So I definitely can have Russ come to a school committee meeting and He's your attorney, not mine.
Right.
And just had a forum to answer questions about liability and that kind of level.
Especially as part of hearing like some of the parents that went and some of this other behaviors that might have been going on with parents that went on the trip and kind of shadowed the trip and stuff like that. Like just making sure that we got full liability and risk information in front of us.
Even if those things haven't happened, we don't know, and of course, we can't extrapolate what's going to happen, so.
All it takes is once.
Right.
And we also just, because this is also new too, but we have a lawyer who are welcome to follow those kind of questions.
Great.
As well, so
If you don't questions,
if you don't have access to that information, we can.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're very, very welcome.
Right, so it's your attorney. If you ever get mad at me, you call him and he no longer talks to me. So it works. She said that to me, and basically they work for the school. And so if you ever have questions regarding anything, you can call Missy Burr's number or you can call my office. So I don't know where the committee's got to kind of decide where it wants to go right now.
And the other option is that we could table this discussion.
My only concern about tabling, which I would like to do, but like, is if there are trips that we've already okayed, are they going to be, still be able to go forward and then any new ones these rules would apply to? Or is that, like, if they're waiting with some money, like, I don't want them to keep like not being able to answer their students.
Right, and they are waiting.
Parents need
So,
to make plans.
if you were to change your policy again, Russ's advice was that once your policy changes, you need to act on that policy. You can't be grandfathering in liability. You're making that determination. So if anything was happening, you would be doubly on.
Right,
Somebody
because we
said,
already knew.
you knew this was a problem and you still went through it. But again, we can ask him what, I think that's what I'm hearing is people would like to have a conversation with him about this. If you're running off your old policy until it occurs, you know what I mean? As you get deeper into the other trips, it puts them in an unfair position if you were to change things and make them change. And those going on the trip having to deal, if someone says, oh, I think you can get a lot of people that are going to change their minds on stuff, but they could.
And could we also have, like, if we were to table this and to come back and have Russ speak to us, could we also have kind of a template drawn up about if you were wanting to do a trip, here's kind of the steps of what would need to happen. You'd have teachers, just for the teachers who so clearly would like to continue to give these students these opportunities, so that we're kind of giving them a way, a path forward to be able to continue to make these with some of these logistical pieces spelled out so that it's easier to make that transition for them as well.
Yeah, I agree.
I know that we have a teacher who wants to give, as long as you can keep it brief to sharing some information, I'm happy to let that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. I just wanted to reply to a couple of concerns and also ask questions. So, just to respond to the parent issue. So as far, on the trips that we have had, any trips in terms of like what we have, organized, parents are full pain. They're not being sponsored by the school. We don't have parents as chaperones. That's free traveling chaperones. They would be paying as a tourist. They're paying full price. So that's just a clarification. I think it would be great to have a disclaimer. I think that parents have to adhere to, a code of conduct. Because attending a trip should, do have a code of conduct for students, for support check. So I think there's support check. And so, even not experience that, perhaps there have been other trips like that. say anything bad about others, but I mean, you know, there are some trips that are sort of more purely travel, and there are other trips that are more connected to curriculum and content, which is kind of what we do. But again, you know, I would just simply say, so that is an issue, but I would also just request that everybody think about, and I hear your concerns as school committee members, but so that we have the same concerns as teachers, right? Not only do we already for our safety, our free time, we are unpaid, we're taking our vacation, we do this for free. I've visited 62 countries in my life. I've lived in more than 20, and we're not doing this for ourselves, right? And so it's not about getting a free trip. We are working 24/7, and you know, we have encountered situations that have required urgent care, and we get response, and we have managed very diverse situations, and we model for students like how do you do that? How do you react? How do you think on your feet? How do you deal with the situations? Yes, so those are other things. Yes, there's a risk. Yes. But you can't be here as a body saying, well, we're afraid of that risk, but we're going to put it on somebody else. So again, you know, we can't say we're protecting certain members of our community and being on their others, right? So, you know, if it comes down to that, we are saying, you know, maybe there will be teachers who are willing to do it, but I think it's going to become few and far between, knowing that kind of responsibility that we are exonerating certain members from, and you know, adding, you know, to others. So like that would be my last comment, except for the fact that again, like, aren't there just disclaimers where we can say like we are not responsible for this, and let families decide? Like nobody's forcing people to go on these trips, right? If you are a parent, and I'm one of them, I sent my child, and I, you know, and I was willing, you know, I would be willing under circumstances to make those boxes. I do not hold anybody accountable. I hold my child accountable. Things happen in the world. That could happen anywhere. I'm willing to do it or I'm not. And so that would just be my, you know, can we legally be exhausted? You know, can we protect ourselves and still not be stopped? Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Do you think that, and you may already be writing this down, do you think that Russ could talk a bit about liability?
Reckon with all those
Thank you.
questions, and you're ready to go.
I also think we could invite our insurance agent to get the policy. I mean, we for this particular trip sent the contract that was requested for the administration to sign. And the underwriting team did review it, and the response was very clear that the liability falls to the school. And yes, you have coverage for it, but based on what we have right now, the liability falls to the school. So we could see if he could come too to talk more about that, because he can look at the ins and outs of, you should have owners and officers coverage, which covers your board, but he can look at more details of all of that. So
I think,
When we, I mean, you know what, Russ, you know, Russ has already said that he doesn't like it at all.
Right.
Because he's an attorney. I'm not sure why we're.
I joking about it. I know you're gonna say no, but this is what we want to do, right? And they say it all the time on different things. But, so I guess the question, we guys want to do in process wise, right? And so,
Another question too. So one of the things that I was hearing from you as you were talking too is that as the liability is shifting away from the school committee onto you as an individual and potentially the organization that you're working with, you're also uncomfortable with that liability as you're planning trips. And I think that's the same feeling that we have, is how are we protecting the entire institution around the liability? And I think that's something that, you know, the insurance company has said is your liability. The lawyer is going to say, this is, you know, I think we all know what the answers will be, even if they come. That's what I'm saying. Even though I was one was like, yes, they should come to the meeting. I suggested more. You know, I think I know what the answers will be.
and I suspect, and I you probably have disclaimers in your life too, that there are plenty of ways around disclaimers that it sounds reassuring to have that as a level of protection, but for the example given earlier, if I was a surgeon and I had you sign something that said, if you cut off the wrong arm, I'm going to guarantee you that I will find you in malpractice lawsuit. Yeah. But there are certainly ways for it. Is there any new information that we have that I don't want to continue like a ongoing plea? We do have to try to find a way past forward.
Tomorrow is the second to last day of school. And our trip is already, in motion process. So I guess my question is, for those of us who restarted and we should go to trip when school's coming Monday, we'll be in the middle of all summer. And if this is tabled, if this discussion is then tabled, that's what next will. Moving forward, I feel disingenuous not communicating with my parents and students, but I don't know, I still don't know the answer. So I feel like to wait another month, right? It's July. Right. We don't need. We don't need it, July. Oh,
September.
right. No, I hear, but I'm saying. Right, well, there's your percent, but I mean, this is not. Once August hits, it's closer than now. I mean, it's.
So I think what you're asking is kind of the same thing that I'm trying to do. We need to figure out how we want to move forward with this. And so if we do table it, unfortunately, that would mean that this policy as is stays until we discuss it again, which I realize is.
We continue to talk to parents and say, okay, pay the next fee. I mean, what's happening to the, we have the initial deposits to the meeting. Digital. I don't know what to tell people.
And we talk it, the parents know what's going on with the liability or something.
Because they don't either, we didn't want to create chaos.
And we're just, we're learning of this really, it's been very recently, so it's kind of neat.
I mean, would they be grandfathered in on the old policy? I don't know what the legal counsel is gonna say.
I think we already talked about that.
We did already.
You
That
did,
did
you
not.
said that's not gonna be good,
Yeah.
but you can do anything you want. You're
Right,
just
but
taking on
that
liability.
was doubling,
That kind of,
in the line.
Yeah.
So if it's better to vote now, I mean,
So
we
I
can do
think
that.
we would need some path forward, some motion, whether that motion is to table it, to approve it.
I'll make a motion to move forward with this policy.
A second.
A second.
One person we haven't heard from. The old man up there. What do you think, Bill?
I think we're in between a rock and a hard place here. And I know there are trips that are in motion, but I think this is going to require a lot of effort and work and conversation to figure out. And I think the smartest thing for us to do is not approve any more trips until we've got this thing figured out and not just jump into it to formulating. I mean, we have the policy formulated, jump into voting on a policy. We have a policy in place. If you don't approve any more trips until we've had a chance to vet this thing completely, I think we're in a better position than we are if we try to make a policy change in the middle of the stream. I think that's a mistake.
A motion in a second. Any other discussion? You can go ahead with it.
Missy,
No,
Olivia. No. Bill,
No.
Karen,
no,
Bob,
No.
Ally.
No.
Jessica, yes. Damian,
Just to clarify, a yes vote approves the new policy, a no vote is.
it's already failed based on how many votes are made, so,
Take a note.
Celia,
I guess my only question is, should I abstain because I have a child going on the trip? Is it okay?
It is completely up to you.
Okay,
You've disclosed that, so it's
Yeah.
fine.
okay, then no.
The motion fails, and sounds like there's some more pieces to get sorted out.
So now we need direction on what you want.
Yeah, so it sounds to me, and others, go ahead. Yeah,
So I'd like to just make a motion, to have our insurance company come in, our attorney come in to give us some clarification. So if new trips do come in for approval, we have more guidance. And I think with what Bill's saying, we do have the power to vote no on all future trips. And then we can decide what to do policy on future trips.
I don't think we need a motion for that.
Good, just to be, yeah,
Yeah, it's
just
just an
to.
expression.
yeah.
All right, I think that's guidance from me.
Also think that we need to come up with a statement for parents and for the teachers that something's in play. I think I just don't want people to get so far, into it, keep going.
Well, the real problem right now, that is a real problem, but
No,
there's no contract signed with the company and we haven't even sent them their deposits,
Yeah.
so families really probably shouldn't be paying any more money because those two pieces are not in place, even if the school were to sign them. That doesn't exist right now. So
But it's on, yes.
it is, but are we willing to sign that? Like,
Right, that's the thing, like,
Do we have
What do we do
to,
about
do
it?
we have to sign?
Yeah, we gotta move forward with your policy. So. Yeah,
But I think Damien had a good point about future trips.
We don't have to approve any
Right.
future trips.
I think in doing that, we should really also work on some sort of playbook for folks who
Trips that are
still
already-
want, for, for the inevitable, if this policy changes or changes in some way, shape or form, how do we continue to have that as an opportunity, which everybody's kind of said we'd like to have this as an opportunity. How do we give them a guidebook for that, including managing a shifting
So,
liability?
so in the future, we had a student that didn't go on one of the trips. And they, small claims court or whatever we did, we had to pay back on it. So what happens in the future again with that? I mean, it's, I know somebody else that couldn't go on a trip because they were injured. They never got their money back. I mean-
Those are the pieces that we've taken the vote, and so I don't want to belabor discussion about something that has already been, but I think that you have enough direction for Russ and the insurance and getting some sort of game plan together for how this might look.
that
Which I think
solves
that-
future trips though, right? It doesn't address what happens with me.
Yeah, well, and so that would be the other piece is like, what does the game plan look like for and any requests for trips? And then how do we get folks out of a limbo state for like, what do things look like if you have an already approved trip and we make some sort of change in this policy? What does that off ramp look like too? Yeah, but I mean, if they're already like knee deep in, right, like people have signed up, they've got half the thing paid for, like what does that off ramping piece look like if we were to change something? I think that's an important piece to have at least outlined for people who already have things planned or who might be interested in planning something. What
So,
does that look like? Or what could that look like?
right, so the way the Argentina trip was set up is that the contract is signed by me. So we will be getting, the district will be going into a contract with that insurance, with that travel company. And so if we were to break that contract, it's whatever the penalties are of that contract.
So I think those are the pieces that we need to. in there.
Which,
April of 27.
So I guess, I mean, is the committee interested in changing the policy once we get it all figured out? Because it's the timing.
Yeah, and so right now we voted to not change the
Do we go
policy, but
forward with-
I think now we're trying to get Barry's direction about what do we want to
still
do. I
want
think
to
we're
look
all
into it.
concerned about figuring out what this liability is, but also how do we.
So I'm wondering if you and I should look at the contract again and maybe talk with this company directly to see exactly what the fine print is on cancellations. If the trip did need to be canceled down the road, what is the impact to financial families for one? And what are the timelines for cancellations?
yeah, I mean, we also have an obligation with families. You know what I mean? They,
Sure.
they go on a different trip, they,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Or different opportunity, you know, I think if,
Yep. Hold on for 1 second, please. Question, have we dealt with this travel agency before, or is this somebody new?
we have,
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
no, come on.
Huh?
They're very difficult, they're not very communicative, helpful when trips were canceled. So that was my experience with them.
Okay.
They weren't very helpful then when we had to cancel people off the trip. They didn't return phone calls, they don't return emails. Unfortunately, I had to stay out of it because I was one of people's children was unable to go on the trip.
Since the administration wanted to come up with student dignity deadline. So I mean, you know, it's all a community, we're all in it together, so it's not like we didn't even know that the student was not going to be allowed to go.
I don't want to get too far down the path, but yeah, so we've talked about this. You have direction about where to move forward with this. I think we need to move on to the next order of business.
I should say there is one other trip that is also planned for April 2027, and so there are two trips involved, right? Two trips ongoing.
So
Where is
Stay in
this?
virtual.
They first looked, yeah.
And that's been
That's
approved.
with EF Tours though, which is the larger company that essentially handles everything. Families have to sign individual waivers and permission slips. They have the insurance.
We weren't, we did not know that it was a public company. Had we known that? I mean, I know this is the venue to discuss this, but we're just learning now that it's a problem. Actually chose. So anyway,
So
another conversation, right?
Right, it's not, there, no, we've had problems with the EF tours as well on things, but there is far more liability protection on EF tours, because we're not collecting money. We're not signing the contract directly with them.
So this is your summer problem.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll already make it ask to see if we can get this on. While I still have, since we'll go undergo organization, maybe we can get that on that additional meeting after we get back. We'll talk about transportation.
Shelley does.
I do.
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm gonna sort of give the short but long, because I know we have a couple new folks that probably don't even know what I'm talking about. So we receive regional transportation reimbursement from the state. It's part of our local aid that we get from the Commonwealth. And every year, the governor puts out an amount that she believes will be reimbursed for in the next year. There's always some changes throughout the budget process because she'll budget a certain percentage of reimbursement, which is based on our actual expenditures. And then as it goes through the House and the Senate, Conference Committee, all those pieces, and then finally it's approved, it could change. The other piece is that once Desi looks at your actuals, those numbers can change. So when we get those cherry sheets, they're estimates. We plug in a number that's even more conservative in case transportation as part of 9C cuts. If the state did not have enough revenue to fund all of the reimbursements, they could cut that line. So what happens when, and this has happened to us in the past, if the state budget is really good, revenues are up, which right now they are, so we could actually see full reimbursement at the cherry sheet level for our local aid. What happens then is, because we only budgeted a conservative amount, that extra money, if we do not allocate it to our stabilization fund, rolls into our E&D, which if it were a significant amount, could have a negative impact, push us over that 5% benchmark. So we don't want to go there. Also, if we vote to put it in the stabilization fund, it directly supports our member towns next year, because we have to apply that money to the following fiscal year's budget for our towns to see that relief. So it's sort of twofold for us to do the vote that I'm asking for tonight, which we did do a couple of years ago. So what I am asking you to vote on is that any regional transportation reimbursement received above the budgeted amount of $230,000 be moved to the Transportation Stabilization Fund as of June 30th, 2026.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Got the Olivia second.
I'm still trying to write down.
Pause for
I can also
transcription.
look at the notes too, Jessica, if you want to afterwards.
I've got any regional transportation reimbursement above the budgeted amount of $230 should be transferred to state.
$230,000.
$230,000.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. To be transferred to the stabilization fund.
To the Transportation Stabilization Fund.
Transportation.
Based on the cherry sheet, I think it would be, if it was fully funded, at the lowest amount on the cherry sheet would be like $45,000 that we would then put back in for our towns and pop. That doesn't have to go. Just for purpose of information. And I don't know what that dollar amount is right now, because it's usually done very late in June. We only receive the first half a year payment in January, and then they'll wait until June to send us the second payment.
Do you know what percentage rate you conservatively budgeted for?
I usually go 80% of whatever was on that initial governor's cherry sheet. So that would have been the 230,000.
Okay.
I think it was 275 or 285 on the original cherry sheet.
I think that the House approved a 90% reimbursement and the Senate is 92, and I'm not sure. So it's got to be at least 90% for Congress. It's the position game.
Yeah.
All right, so Bob motioned and Olivia seconded.
Bill
Bill
and
thank
Olivia.
you. Are we ready for roll call?
Yes.
Missy,
Yes.
Olivia, yes, Bill,
Yes.
Mary, yes, Bob.
Yep.
Ally, yes, Jessica, yes, Damian,
Yes.
Celia.
Yes.
Are you also on deck for school lunch?
I am, yes. So I'm gonna have another motion for you. This is a vote to approve the transfer of school lunch earnings. So I'm gonna attribute this to what we often talk about at town meetings, or you hear at town meetings as a warrant item. Occasionally, there's a bill from the prior year that didn't get paid, and it has to get approved at town meeting to get paid with the new budget funds. This is a similar concept. We had 4 of our 5 schools had an administrative review with the DESE school nutrition program this year. One of the findings was that interest earnings on the school lunch revolving fund were not being applied to the school lunch revolving fund. And because there is federal money and state money coming in, interest has to be applied to that particular pot of money. And then those funds get reallocated to be used in our school lunch programs. It's relatively new that they're pushing this because schools have so much money in their school lunch account because of the way that we're being reimbursed for meals these with the free and reduced, or not free and reduced, just free. So we are looking to vote tonight on interest that was from fiscal year 25 that we did not post to in 25. So we're using some of this year's money offset last year. Does that make sense? Yes, no, just.
Can you give me a motion word?
Yes, I'm gonna give you the motion. I would just give you.
I
Okay.
can see you like, how do I make this?
Yes. Okay. I just want to make sure you understood what we were voting on and why we're voting on it. So we're basically taking some of our free cash and that will get certified this year and applying it to that school lunch fund. Moving forward, we have a system to do this on a, at least twice a year basis. So we'll do it in January and June so that this doesn't happen again. Okay, ready?
Ms. Pereira recommended that the committee vote to
Vote to approve posting of $8,392.51 to the school lunch revolving fund to account for interest earnings in fiscal year 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, you got it, and Bill and Bob?
Yeah.
Bob and Bill?
Bob.
All right, ready?
Yes.
Missy?
Yes.
Olivia? Yes. Bill?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Bob?
Mhm.
Ally? Yes. Jessica? Yes. Damon?
Yes.
Celia?
Yes.
Thank you.
I only want to comment on that, that there's a lot, Shelley makes it sound simple, but there's a lot of work on her end and her crew's end trying to make this right, because we weren't set up in a way to account for the interest of each individual thing, and we had to pull that all out. Yeah, so it sounds pretty straightforward. It's like, just moving $9,000, but it was still.
It's more complicated too, because I don't have any control in the town's record keeping, and this applied to 3 of the 4 elementary schools. So it required work of the town treasurers, the town accountants, and then all of us to come to agreement. So
Yeah, it was a huge headache behind the scenes. It wasn't just a simple vote.
what's that? No tears for this one.
Because this was in your wheelhouse. You're like, I got this.
I have some extra Kleenex. at
Yeah.
home. I got some extra Kleenex at home if you need some.
You wanna
All right,
give the
so,
overview?
yeah, so I did send out, I hope you had a chance to read the overview on the scoreboard, but just to kind of, to make sure everybody didn't have a chance to read it, everybody's on the same page. So, this past year, the girls field hockey team and the boys baseball team combined their fundraising efforts to purchase a new scoreboard that has been placed on the building, in basically center field of the baseball field, which is also right where the field hockey field is. And so it was put up this spring and tournament, so it's working. The previous scoreboard remains on the side of the gym, which faces, if you've ever seen it before, it kind of faces the parking lot. Was installed in 2004 and as we heard earlier from Kathy, from donations from community groups and supporters and dedication in memory of Greg Belanger, who was a 1998 graduate of Frontier Regional, and he was killed in 2003 in Iraq while serving in the United States military. And the scoreboard was named in his honor and a memorial to his service and sacrifice. That scoreboard became non-functional, unfortunately, shortly after it was installed. I wasn't involved. I didn't start here until 2008, so it was several years before I showed up. So I don't know what the real story is behind it, but apparently they bought a scoreboard that was radio controlled, and the technology wasn't really there yet, and started having problems from day one. And then within a few years, they couldn't fix it, and then they gave up on it because the cost got too much. And so it's been up there for, unfortunately, for probably 15 to 18 years of not working. So when we put up the new board, the question was whether or not we carry the name over to the new scoreboard. And my interpretation was that it's a decision that would have to come to school committee. We do have a policy that we put together in 2018 that the school committee recognizes that permanent memorials within schools shall ordinarily take form in persons, or perpetual awards or scholarships unless authorized by the school committee to the contrary. Any permanent memorials in existence before the adoption of this policy can only be removed by the vote of school committee. But basically, I'm sorry, the part before that says, the schools really should not be a place for memorials. And so we have acted on that policy when we asked, our memorial was asked to do the dugout of the baseball field for a longtime assistant coach and friend of the program. So it is one of those difficult questions, right? It's a different group of people who fundraises and put that board up. Does a name once named carry on for every renewal and for how long? Is also kind of goes against our new policy. So it was great, the Gregory Belanger Memorial Scholarship has been given every year I've been here. There's also recognition of his service area outside the library on the wall. And there's also something in the wrestling trophy case as well. So there's a lot of, and there's things in town as well for me. He's been recognized throughout the town, so I don't think his memory is going to be lost. But I also could hear that, we're dealing with a person who did sacrifice his life and still has strong ties to the community. So it's a tough call, but it's yours to make what to do on that.
What does Missy and Chris think about his thing?
I told them that they should stay out of it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not for them to decide.
I didn't know if you had
Right.
their opinion.
Basically, I actually instructed them to kind of stay out of it because it's your purview to make that decision and so forth. So I don't know about the.
Well, since it's not a new one, I mean, it's a new scoreboard, but it's not a new plaque that's up there for Mr. Belanger. I mean, I think it should be, somewhere maybe on that building next to the other new one. That's my opinion. I mean, if it was a new one, like the dugout or,
It's a whole new board and a whole new section of the building.
Right,
Yeah.
is that,
Representing now working on two fields instead of one field. It is a different setup. I mean, it's a baseball scoreboard and also a field hockey scoreboard. So the guy one has a timer on it and whatnot as well. So it is, don't want to be square, but it is like right now, it's not in its same spot. It is a different, and fundraised by a different community.
Sorry, I've got both of you. Let me grab Olivia and then.
My feelings about it are just that I think that, like, as their kids, like, you gotta kind of hold the line. And full disclosure, which was my next door neighbor, he was like a father figure to me, which and we denied that, and I think we should have, because that was in line with our policy. And I think as much as I feel for Kathy and I appreciate Greg's sacrifice, and I'm glad that there are other memorials to him in the school, I think that this would be a very slippery slope if we're like, oh, he can't, but he can. So I think we might just want to think about.
yeah, just to echo what you were saying, is also that in shifting it to a new location, in effect becomes a new memorial, not it's unfortunate, and it's unfortunate that we have to honor all numbers or something locations, but that is the policy that's stated.
I just generally, and I shared this with you when we brought this up, is that we have many members of our community that may either contribute or ask in some way throughout either their time here or after that, and putting us in a position of approving or denying their name going in a space really puts us in an uncomfortable position of valuing one person's presence and memory over another, and really an appropriate space for that is in some sustaining other venue that is not a permanent fixture within the walls of the school, or in this case, on school grounds.
Are we gonna take down the old one? Eventually? Okay,
So what do you think the intent was when this was done, to dedicate a scoreboard or the scoreboard? This is a different score. That first scoreboard was dedicated to Greg, and it doesn't work anymore. We have a new scoreboard, and I don't understand for the life of me. To me, it's a no-brainer that the new score, because it's a new scoreboard, doesn't make it a new honor. The honor already exists, the naming of the scoreboard, and the honor should persist in the naming of the new scoreboard.
Even though it's for
Wait, can
two
you,
different
can you
things.
clarify? You're saying that you think we should move the name over?
Absolutely.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How complicated is it to move? I'm embarrassed to say I did not walk back there and look at the setup. Like, is it like a separate nameplate that just would get moved over, or is like we would need to make a new? There would need to be like a new thing constructed to go on the new sign, the new scoreboard.
There would be a small expense to it because we would have to rent a lift, but the sign appears from the ground that we could probably just unbolt it and then find another way to fasten it to the other one.
It's not on the actual.
It's,
scoreboard.
no, there's two signs below it. There's one that's everybody who donated to the board, is part of the sign. And then there's a smaller strip that has Gregory's name. So I don't think it's about the logistics of it.
Right.
I mean, it could cost up to $800, I would say. Last time we rented a lift truck to do the installing, I think the board was about that much. So there is some cost to it, but I don't think that should be, I think it's about what the principle of it is. And we get caught in the house. That's what we're doing.
I guess for me, that brought up another, if we would be taking a sign that has the names of all the other donors for the old sign, we are
They
creating
didn't donate for this one. This one was donated by two
a
teams.
misperception that,
It's a whole different thing, 'cause it's for
that we now,
sports as opposed, right?
But there were
Yeah.
donors for that, like people.
right, so
gave-
now
Right.
do we create another issue where we have recognized donors for a previous board, and now we either are misrepresenting donors for this, or now we need another sign that includes all the donors for the new
It's a,
sign.
it's kind of ours.
It is a
Yeah,
can of
yeah.
worms. It just opened up a bit.
Just to put my 2 cents in, we have a policy in place from when this was put on 18 years ago. And we should follow that new policy. There's no disrespect to the family or like, yeah, well, we shouldn't be putting memorials on around the school everywhere. If this school, when this school eventually gets torn down and a new school gets put in place, is it still gonna be the Good Now Arena? Is it, you know, I mean, at some point, things have to come to an end. And you have a new policy in place to follow.
make a motion to move the question or move the policy or,
There's no,
huh?
you could make the motion, there is no motion to proclaim.
Yeah, yeah. It would be, I think that
Either move the name or not.
to either, it would be a motion to move the name or a motion to not move the name, but the vote would take place
Since we
accordingly.
do have a policy, I'll make a motion that do not remove it and transfer it over to the new one, because we do have a policy in place, so. I mean, it's,
We could also
Yeah,
just
we-
decline to make the motion.
excuse me,
We could also decline to make any motion or take a vote. Because we have a policy.
So,
Would that be, is there a difference, Darius, for you?
Yeah, I mean, if no one makes a motion, then there's no action upon it, and therefore the name is not transferred. It's however, I believe I'm the only one that'll be contacting with Kathy to let her know what's going on. I just need to know what was done by the school committee, so it shows that a
Would you prefer?
inaction was an action. You know what I mean? Because that's, you can do it that way, that there was no, I could say there was no motion to
To make the
It
transfer.
might
To
be
make the
more
transfer.
painful for her to see people voting against it.
Right.
Then if we just don't.
Personally, I'd rather take no action.
I don't want to cause.
Well, if you're looking at me, it's your call,
Yeah.
whatever, I was gonna.
I think that's a fairly cowardly thing for us to do, is to take no action. I think if that's what you believe, that it shouldn't be moved, then stand up for it. I think it should be moved, and I will stand up for it, and that's the way I will vote. But please don't hide behind no action.
Just trying to save yourself additional, that's all. Passionate.
So Bill,
Oh,
if Bill can make a motion to move it,
get halfway through a motion. I don't want to muddy the waters there, Bob, but did you want to continue with your motion or let?
Let Bill
move forward? All right. You want to
Madam
make a
Chair-
motion, Bill?
Madam Chairman, I would like to move that the naming of the scoreboard for Greg Belanger follows from the old scoreboard to the new scoreboard.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. Also have a question. So is
Yeah,
there
go ahead.
any wording in that policy that says you can't do that?
That says that you can't move it?
No, it says you can't have new ones. This is not a new one. We already have it.
It says any permanent memorials in existence before the adoption of this policy can only be removed by a vote of the school committee. So that's removing it. It doesn't say anything about moving it. There is, and we had kind of talked about this, and I don't think it's necessarily in here, but what happens when something falls into disrepair and there's some sort of, like, say we didn't replace the roof, and now the roof of the gymnasium falls in and it's caused so much damage that we need to replace the whole thing. Would we then carry on the name of this new structure? And I don't know that we have anything. I think we were talking about that.
right,
top
and so
hypotheticals.
I have language on policy. I thought it would be a little much to bring a change of policy here tonight on this as well, but I mean, for instance, let's say a tree was planted in memory of someone. If the tree dies, you plant a new tree.
At what level do we continue?
These are, so I just, and I said this, didn't say it's the last meeting we bring up, I've had many conversations with people. I put this on the listserv to all the superintendents in the state about what are people doing? And it is a conundrum across. We're building a brand new school and the communities to split on whether or not the school should be named after the original one, or, we're changing someone is doing a scoreboard and they're talking about, well, we have somebody else we want to name the scoreboard after because the scoreboard is 25 years old. Is it time for someone else's name to be on there? So there's a lot of other ones. There's another school that says absolutely that when we retire a piece of equipment or portion of the school, it changes hands at that point. You have new opportunities for other community members. So, and then there are some that are saying we're sticking with it because the community is too upset. You know what I mean? So I mean, we're not dying on that hill, so to speak. But we're not going to put ourselves in that position to make those decisions. So, it's out there, and a lot of communities are struggling with it. So you're not alone. There's nothing clear cut because it is about, what's done in those times.
So your motion.
Yeah, so, yeah, go ahead. Is there any other just?
What is, I mean, I recognize that the first scoreboard really did not hold up well, but what is the general expected lifespan of it?
Don't ask Sunderland
Can
Elementary.
we,
I would say, so like, let's call everything 20 to 25 years.
Okay.
You know, I mean, there are any new football scoreboards, and I would say that's about 25 years.
Okay.
any other questions or discussion pertaining to this particular vote?
You just reread it.
Thank you. It's always hard when there's a lot of discussion in between.
Mr. Smith made a motion to transfer the naming of the memorial scoreboard to the new scoreboard. Ms. Raymond seconded the motion.
So to clarify, yes vote would be to move the name from the old scoreboard to the new scoreboard, and a no vote would be to not.
Follows our policy.
Yeah, to follow our policy.
Missy?
No.
Olivia?
No.
Bill?
Yes.
Mary?
No,
Bob?
No.
Ally?
No.
Justin? No. Damian?
No.
And Celia? Yes.
You're gonna communicate. All right, any committee reports?
Bill and Celia were yes, everyone else was not. Yeah. So-
Oh, right. You want to give an update on?
I went and spoke to the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education during their public comment last month. The board includes the secretary who is appointed by the governor, and the commissioner also participates in those meetings. He's the equivalent of the superintendent for this board. And when we followed up, we made statements. Martha Server and I from Mohawk Trail, we made statements about rural schools and followed up with him. He has granted us a meeting, so we're going to go meet the commissioner. And our goal is to talk to him about the importance of increasing rural aid, because he makes recommendations to the governor, who proposes the first budget and makes proposals related to supplemental budgets mid-year. So we are still back in the dark, but we got into the desk.
Awesome,
Thank
thank you. If you didn't catch it, I sent out a little bit of MASC information from the last talk that was on rural aid, amongst other things. So if you didn't catch that link, it's probably worth a click to also talk about potential upcoming things with standardized tests or quick graduation requirements. It's an interesting additional piece of that meeting. I don't have any other updates other than to say we haven't really talked about whether or not we'll do another like collective retreat at the beginning of the fall, but it's possible that did you and Carrie talk about?
We haven't talked about it. I'm sure we're both willing.
All right, so I just
I think those two people might
throw that out there.
Right?
and potentially somebody from Conway. So we don't.
If I saw people, if I saw you, said
She was asking about the two people.
Oh, Diane.
It's Ally.
Oh, Diane was there last time. I know, yeah.
and the other half.
Yeah.
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 There's people,
So many.
There's people that,
that are the target audience.
perfect. I don't think we have a report for the collaborative, not just because Keith's not here, but also don't think we've had a report from them for a little bit. Do you have a letter to?
Yeah, I got a couple things to go through. One is you're gonna hear a lot of news about the new graduation requirements. They will be released to the governor, from the committee, from DESE, I think next week. We got a preview of them today at the superintendent's. And so we'll go through in details in the fall. There's gonna be a lot of noise about them because there's a lot of areas where they're not very clear. But one of the things that on the timeline of things is going to be that all schools have to do Mass Core, which is the curriculum, the minimum curriculum standard in order to graduate. Frontier already does Mass Core, so there's going to be a lot of concerns statewide, but I think it's like 80% of the state does Mass Core. So anyway, so we're I'm not worried about the implementation of the things right now. But there's a lot of loose ends about course end assessments that they haven't ironed out, which is going to replace the things for MCAS that you have to pass in order, and they're going to apply them to, credits in classes. It's a mess. And I serve on a committee that was supposed to give advising to the creators of this, and they didn't really listen to all the concerns the superintendents have. So you're going to hear a lot of things. Read the MASC bulletin that was sent out about the MASC stance on it, because not only do they talk about it, but it gives the position, and I'm pretty much in agreement, lockstep with the MASC about the concerns about the new graduation standards. So There's gonna be a lot of uproar when they come out from the Teachers Association, I imagine, from MASC, from a lot of school districts that, especially larger school districts that aren't doing Mass Core, it costs to put on Mass Core, the amount of courses that kids are gonna take, rescheduling schedules, schools and that kind of stuff. It's gonna be a lot of work. So, good intentions inside of all this, but they're trying to take on a really big bite. And I think I said at the last meeting, and I expressed that in the meetings that I think they're trying to take on too much at once. But they're going ahead full bore. So, that'll be coming. The other thing that'll be coming out at the end of the month is MCAS will be reported on a system where parents will log in to see their children's scores or their student scores. And so, we'll be putting that out. Their scores will be coming out sooner than they have in the past, so they'll get quicker turnaround. But all that's coming out at the end of this month, so you'll hear about that in the news as well. All right. And the last thing,
Sorry, that's
Yep.
being rolled out by DESE? The online access system for the MCAS scores is from DESE?
they're gonna. I don't know. There's a training tomorrow morning at 9:30. At 9:45, you can call George. They basically said there's a training about how we are going to teach parents to log in to get their scores.
So
And
I have a
so-
meeting with all the parents.
Right, and so I have concerns about that right at the gate because a lot of our parents don't log in right now to see online grading. So it's just gonna be another, you have to go get the information rather than being, so we'll be looking about how hard it is and the access to yet another data platform for their children. So, all right, anything else?
Close to one parent square.
Yeah, right. Maybe there'll be a way for us to
I was just gonna say, can
to
you
put it
integrate it?
into, put it into Parent Square or put it
Because
into,
everybody reads the weekly update.
yeah.
They got the date?
Checking the metrics.
All right, and then any other questions on that? The last thing I'm gonna do before, I think I'm the last to talk, is that although he's not here tonight, I did learn that Phil Cantor is not running for reelection for the Conway Grammar School Committee. And, but he has been serving for 13 years in Conway and 12 at Frontier representing Conway, as their appointed person. Phil has never been afraid to speak his mind, as we all know, on whether or not it's a routine discussion or hot stove issues, you knew where Phil stood. He brought thoughtful questions and willingness to challenge assumptions and an unwavering commitment to what he believed was best for students and community. And while Phil has occasionally embraced his role as the committee's curmudgeon, thank you.
I don't know
It
how
is
I did
always-
say that.
It always came from a place of caring deeply about our schools and wanting things to be right. So on behalf of students, families, staff, administrators, and the community members, who had the privilege of serving alongside Phil, thank you for your dedication, your advocacy, and so many years of service to public education.
Phil, if you're spending your night watching this.
But he's watching from home.
We will miss you.
So, yes, he's the appointed one, so there'll be all the new appointees from the reorganizations that school's doing.
All right.
Make a motion to
Something.
adjourn, Madam Chairman.
Second.
All right. Jessica, would you like to?
Melissa, Olivia, Bill, Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you good, Bill, with adjourning? All right. Good night, Bill. Good night.